Okay, reviewing the basics. Part 8, order of operations with fractions. Basically one example to walk through with you. Did I kill enough time that you got that title down? We're good? All right. Our order of operations still applies when fractions are involved. Example. Whoa. Yeah, I went big. Right off the hop I went, okay, let's do one that has everything all in one. We'll do it slow and careful. We'll go through each step very carefully. And I want to switch this pointer over to laser pointer. Okay. 3 halves minus 2/5 divided by 1/5 times 3/8 plus 1/8 squared plus 2/3. You know, this is going to happen in math through the rest of high school and into university if you take some math at university. Where an example at first when you look at it seems so impossibly big that how could you actually sort through it? Well, that's what Bedmas is for. Bedmas is for when you run into a question that has so many things in it and it's hard to manage, it tells you where to start, where to get started with. So, Bedmas. B, brackets. But there's more to it than that. I tried to tell you on Monday, there's more to the brackets part of it than just brackets. What is it about brackets we're trying to accomplish here? Going inside brackets. Yeah, that's what we're really talking about when we say brackets. Not just because there's brackets there, but because there's something inside brackets. And I hope you can see right here, inside that bracket right there, 3/8 plus 1/8, there's definitely some stuff we can do inside some brackets. So there we go, 3/8 plus 1/8. Then your brain goes, okay, I don't have to worry about anything else about this question except the 3/8 plus the 1/8. Now what do we need? This is an adding fractions question. What do you absolutely have to have? No tricks, no way around it, to add two fractions. Common denominator. You don't need that for multiplying and dividing. Multiplying and dividing is way nicer. But adding and subtracting you do. And in this particular question, I wasn't trying to, I did want it to be a major Bedmas question, but I wasn't trying to blow you away with the fractions of this question. 3/8 plus 1/8, it already does have a common denominator. There's a little weird thing about adding fractions. After doing multiplying fractions, it's actually easy to mess this up. For instance, someone who's good at adding fractions then goes and does multiplying fractions and comes back and they start making mistakes in adding fractions. Because there's something weird about adding fractions. What do you do here? Go ahead, question? Probably as we go. Every time we get a chance, we want to simplify fractions. Great question. So what is it about adding fractions? Let me simplify my question. What do you do with the numerators when you're adding fractions? Yeah, you add the numerator, but the denominator stays the same. That's different in multiplying fractions, and it can mess you up. Because after doing multiplying, you're like, oh yeah, add the denominators. No. All we do is add the numerators and keep the denominator the same. So what we got out of 3/8 plus 1/8 was 4/8. Now I've jumped ahead here more to give you permission to do that. I wanted to tell you about that when I mark things and there's a one little step missing, don't worry. One little step isn't a big problem for me. They can be a little more strict about this in elementary, as they should be, as you're learning it. But now, if you happen to go 4/8 and then jump right and go 4/8 and you write 1/2 and do things like that, that's okay. If you don't want to, then don't. You can show as many steps as you want. That's no problem. So 4/8 and immediately reduce it. And the reason we reduce it is if we square 4/8, it's going to become like 16 over 64. The numbers just get bigger and bigger. So we want to reduce every chance we get. Reducing is such a good move. Okay, back to Bedmas now. We did brackets. Okay, well, we did the inside of the brackets. There's still a bracket here. But that's not what brackets means in Bedmas. It doesn't mean you just have to do this bracket because there's a bracket there. It means if there's an operation you can do inside and there isn't here. Next is exponents. I do have an exponent. It's 1/2 to the power of 2, which should be 1/2 times 1/2, which is 1/4. Maybe like another step in there. Let me put the other step in there. I'm skipping some steps not to show off, but again to give you permission that if the odd little step is skipped in your solutions, It's okay. If I look at it and go, oh, I can see what you did there. I want to see the big picture when you're showing your steps. So 1/2 times 1/2 is a quarter. That's all I've worked on. I didn't do anything with the 3/2. I didn't do anything with the 2/5 or the 1/5 or the 2/3. Brackets done, exponents done, next. Well, tell me about next. D and M of Bedmas. How do I approach division and multiplication? Is it division before multiplication? Is it multiplication before division? What was the order I do there? You just go left to right. Division and multiplication are on the same level. You don't go after division first. You go left to right there. So I'm going to go 2/5 divided by 1/5. That's the only thing I'm going to work on in this step. Lots of writing here in these questions because you got to rewrite the next line. 2/5 divided by 1/5. Oh, this is the one part. When I was thinking through yesterday, my lesson on Monday, I was like, did I make a big enough deal about dividing fractions? Tell me, how do we divide fractions? What's our approach of dividing fractions? There's sort of a two-step thing we got to remember. Flip the second fraction and multiply. Actually, one mistake I've often seen on these pre-quizzes is flipping the first fraction. People remember to flip, but it's got to be the second fraction. So we flip this second fraction here, this 5/1. That's the one that's going to get flipped. And then switch to multiplication. It almost feels like cheating. It's such a beautiful math move. You go, well, I'm not sure how to divide fractions. So I'll just switch to multiply, and it's perfectly legitimate. We reverse the operation from dividing to multiplying, and we reverse the fraction. So since we reversed both, it works. It all works out nicely. And then actually, again, I'll say, I think that multiplying fractions is easier than adding fractions because you just go numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator, just like that. And so I get 3/2. I went numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Now look though, again, I'm going to write along the arrow the step that was missed here. Again, I really just wanted you to see that if you're like, oh, do I have to show every step? Well, yeah, I want you to show lots of steps, but a step like this where you go 2 times 5 is 10 over 5. So in between here, there's a 10 over 5 in there. But then we go, oh, 10 over 5 reduces down nicely to 2/1. So if you want to do those reducings as you go, those reductions as you go, you can. Yeah, that's fine. But you don't have to. You want an extra step in there? You're like, no, I like being careful. One thing per line. I like that too. What a great way to make sure you don't make mistakes. Right? Okay, where were we? Bedmas. We did brackets. We did exponents. We did division multiplication left to right. But there's still more division multiplication left to right. Another numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator here. Okay, the extra step that's missing here. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 4 is 4. And the 2/4 becomes 1/2. In this PowerPoint, I did those reductions as I went. You don't have to, though. You really seem like you're with me. It really feels like it. When I look out in the eyes, I don't see any frowns. I see the odd nod. I might even see the odd eyes closing a little bit, like you're bored with this, which, hey, that doesn't hurt my feelings. I get it. But I want to tell you, anytime in math class, it'll happen eventually, where there's a time when a teacher's up here teaching, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm confused. I don't get that example. I'm completely lost. He's going way too fast for me. Never panic. Never panic. They're paying me to do two things. One is to teach you the lessons, and two, to help you afterwards. So as soon as I finish and you go to do the homework, you just call me over. No problem. And in this COVID environment, you can text, email, all those things, okay? So never panic. It's too early to panic. Grade 9, it's got too far to go. Grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, university. Maybe for some of you, masters, PhDs. Then become teacher, parent, buy your own house, car insurance. There's all these things later to panic about. Grade 9, none. Come on. We're here for you. We're here to help you. Even with my crazy I feel like I'm wearing a helmet now with these goggles. It's sort of surreal, you know? All right, back to here. I'm done brackets, I'm done exponents, I'm done division, I'm done multiplication. Now just adding and subtracting. But again, one more time, tell me about adding and subtracting. How do I approach adding and subtracting? Is it adding before subtracting before adding, or is there something else to this whole story? Yeah, addition and subtraction are all on the same level. It's not addition before subtraction. That was just a cute word they came up with, Bedmas, yeah? Otherwise, if they had wrote it the other way, it would have been Bedmas. You know, it's not catchy, right? So that's the only reason that A is before S. Addition and subtraction on the same level. And incidentally, Bedmas isn't something created by mathematicians to go, this is what you must do. So mathematicians went back a long time ago and studied math and science and all these things in business and said, what do we usually mean? When we've got multiplying and addition, what are we trying to say? And when they looked at the actual word problems, they went, oh, in the word problems, it's usually that we mean multiply first and then add after. And you're going to see that in this course. We're going to run into some great examples of that, where you see, oh, when we do multiplying and adding, it's usually we want the multiplying done first, then the adding, to do the actual word problem we're working on. And that's why Bedmas was created, because you're like, we usually mean this, okay? Okay, 3 halves minus 1 half, so what do we have to have? Have to have for adding and subtracting? Common denominator, we do here. Sometimes you won't in the homework questions, and you'll have to get a common denominator. But here I get 3 halves minus 1 half, and I get 2 halves. Here's that extra step, if you'd like it. But again, permission for me to skip the reductions as you go. Not skip them, but just skip writing them on a separate level. If you go, oh, 2 halves, oh, 1, yeah? And then here, it looks like, I haven't done my mixed fraction lesson yet. And it looks like here's the mixed fraction. But I want to tell you that some fractions are hard, and some are really easy. 1 plus 2/3 is 1 2/3. There's some extra steps there, but geez, I don't know. Geez, I really hope that a lot of you get to the point where you see 1 plus 2/3 and you don't have to do any fancy stuff. You're like, yeah, I know what 1 plus 2/3 is. It's 1 2/3. I know exactly what that means. If you like the steps, 1 would have to become 3/3 to get a common denominator. Add them together to get 5/3, and on to the 1 2/3. Final answers, please put them in mixed form. I want to see you be able to do that. But more on that in the upcoming, is my laser working? Adding and subtracting mixed fractions lesson sometime later. Notice what I didn't do. I didn't put times on today's plan for the other lessons, because I don't know. I'll just take it as it goes. I'll come up and say, hey, how far in that homework are you? Oh, no, we'd like a few more minutes. Okay, we'll move the lesson back. Oh, no, we're all done. Okay, let's get the next lesson done so we can get as much done in class as we can and try and keep the homework to a minimum. Yeah? Any questions about this example? Anything at all about this example that's bothering you or you're concerned about? Saw a few nods. You know, the nodding really helps me as a teacher. Even if you don't want to raise your hand in class or anything like that, just even the slightest acknowledgement just lets me know, oh, we're good. Because sometimes it's hard to read, and especially with the masks and everything, you're hard to read, and it's hard for me to know. The other thing I teach my classes to do is the deep frown, which still works, is you just get those eyebrows down and really frown, and then I'll go, oh, something's wrong. And then I'll re-explain something that I think has to happen. Another thing I love to do is this example, because it gives people a chance to ask a question even though they don't seem like they're asking a question. Here's the clever question I'll ask in an example like this. What do you think the toughest step in all this is? Do you see what a great question that is? Because if you totally understood the whole thing, you could say, and you can say what the toughest part is. But if you didn't understand something, you could also just say what you think the toughest step is, and I could jump in and re-explain that. So in all of that, what do you think the toughest moment, the toughest step in the whole thing was? It was all so extremely easy. You can't even pick out a tough step because it was so easy. Let me look at it. I'll decide what I think the toughest moment was. I think it's right here. After dealing with the brackets and exponents, this looks like alphagettis. You know, like it just looks like, is that even a thing anymore? You had alphagettis when you were a kid, the bowl of noodles that was all letters and numbers and stuff like that? This line can look like that. It happens in math all the time, where all of a sudden you just get a line like this, and it just looked like somebody had alphagettis for lunch and then puked it on the table. You're like, what am I supposed to do? That's where you go right back to Bedmas and you go, calm down, Bedmas. Brackets, exponent, division, multiplication, and you just sort through to find out what one thing you're going to do in the next line. Are we good? Okay, so here's the plan. I'm going to, of course, do my video thing and get that all uploading. I know we don't have anyone here away today, but I'm trying to get in that habit so when you are away, a video pops up as soon as possible so you can get to work in the morning. Even though if you're homesick, I imagine you're going to sleep in until noon or who knows. But anyways, it'll be there. So you've got some work time now to work on page 499. It's in the PowerPoint too, I think. Page 499, number 1. I'm just looking over someone's shoulder here. 499, number 1. I know it only says one question, but they ramp up. There's 6 pretty good fraction questions, so it should take you a little bit of time. And then we want to do the pre-quiz. So get started on that, and then maybe in about 10 minutes or so, I'll throw the pre-quiz up on the board. You can take out a piece of paper, do the pre-quiz, and I'll come around and pick it up from you. You just raise your hand when it's done. Is it good? Is it clear what has to be accomplished? If you're not done some of the homework from the other days, yeah, you want to go back and do that fraction work first. Finish that up. Okay?